Terrifying moments on a busy highway. A woman saved from a burning car.
If I would have been in there, then I wouldn't have made it.
An off-duty police officer and his wife step into action, credited in a fiery rescue on the 401. Good evening. She said it happened in a matter of seconds. With traffic speeding past, her car burst into flames.
But it was the moments that followed and the action of others, she says, saved her life. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live with tonight's top story. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the owner of this car says she didn't know what was happening when people were flagging her down. When she got to the side of the road, it wasn't until she got out of her car that she saw the fire. Now she wants to find the Good Samaritans who helped her. As her car sat burning on the side of the 401 Saturday night, Jamie Lee Mitchell was in shock. Today, as she watches the video, she can't help but think,
One more minute, I would have sat in that car if those people didn't come out and help me. I wouldn't have gotten out.
The 32-year-old mother of 3 was on her way from Guelph to work in Toronto around 8:30. She just dropped off her 6-year-old son. She noticed cars honking, trying to get her attention. Mitchell pulled over.
All of a sudden, my car within seconds just filled with black smoke. Black smoke, and then I started feeling dizzy.
Mitchell tried desperately to exit the vehicle, climbing out the passenger window. She was helped by a husband and wife who had been honking their horn, having seen the fire underneath the car.
As I fell out of my car, finally getting out the door, they were just right there and just picked me up and grabbed my stuff and just said, run, run, we gotta go back, run.
Calling 911, they stood, watching. Small explosions, the tires, the engine. In less than 5 minutes, fire completely engulfing the car. She got out just in time.
If I would have been in there, then I wouldn't have made it. And my kids would not have a mom.
Fire crews arriving soon after, knocking down the fire. Today, the spot along the highway in the eastbound lanes just before Highway 6 South show the aftermath. Mitchell says of the couple who helped, one was an off-duty OPP officer out of Aurelia who had been returning from a cheer competition with their kids, but Mitchell never got their names. Mitchell wanted to share her gratitude, knowing that they could have just kept on driving, instead choosing to warn her and then to pull over.
And right away risking your lives to run to me, even though you had your own family. Just thank you.
We contacted the OPP to find the name of the officer, but they were not able to track him down. The cause of the fire is unknown. The car was a 2017 Hyundai Elantra. Mitchell says it had many problems, but she never missed any maintenance. In September, Hyundai and Kia recalled 3.4 million autos because of a fuel leak in the ABS brakes that can lead to a spontaneous fire. But the 2017 Elantra was not included in that recall.
There was nothing left of it.
Mitchell says she isn't sure what to do next, trying to recover from the shock. Now, Hyundai Canada did contact us today to say that this was not covered by a recall, but they are committed to investigating this incident and engaging with the customer. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. We turn to a deadly daylight shooting in Scarborough.
2 people injured in the gun violence that unfolded in an apartment building. 1 did not survive. CTV's Siobhan Morris joins us live from Kingston and Galloway with the latest from police. Siobhan.
Well, Nathan, there's a whole team of investigators here trying to piece this murder case together. Here's what we know so far. Police were called to this apartment building around 12:40 this afternoon, but police haven't been able to tell us at this point where exactly in the building the shooting happened, except it didn't happen in any unit. So we think it happened in some other public space. No word yet either how many guns were used, but we know that 2 people were injured. Police say when they arrived, they initially found one man who had what looked like apparent gunshot wounds.
Toronto paramedics started life-saving measures, but he was subsequently pronounced deceased right at the scene. Officers located a second man, also in the building, also suffering from gunshot wounds. This male was transported to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries.
And police say that man is a suspect in this case, but right now the priority is getting him the medical care he needs. They aren't able to say if they're looking for any more suspects at this point. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And police continue to search for suspects in another shooting in the East End. This one happening just after midnight near Danforth and Greenwood. Police say 2 men made their own way to hospital before first responders arrived. Their injuries are considered serious, but not life-threatening. And still to come tonight, with disturbing trends like anti-Semitism and Islamophobia on the rise, Toronto police hope to raise awareness as they kick off Crime Prevention Week. The strategy coming up.
But first, to a story generating a lot of interest from anyone with a job or anyone looking for a job.
Imagine knowing what you'd be making before you even apply. The province is pushing to make it mandatory for Ontario employers to disclose salary ranges. CTV's Alison Hurst joins us live with the story. Alison.
We've been speaking with Torontonians all day about this and getting a lot of positive feedback, with many of them saying it would certainly impact their job search. Wages and salary ranges may soon be included in all Ontario job posts. The province is pitching new legislation to make it mandatory.
Better to know all the information of the job to apply.
Giving the candidate an idea up front of the earning potential.
When workers' salaries are kept secret, there's only one beneficiary, and that's businesses.
The Labour Minister says the details still need to be worked out, including requirements on the salary range, and adds it would start with jobs that pay less than $100,000 a year.
It's working class workers who don't earn six-figure salaries. They want to know what those ranges are.
Many are encouraged by the idea.
Negotiating pays hard. Sucks, so it would be nice to know what their kind of range is.
If the employer and the prospective employer are too far apart, it's better to know that up front and not waste anyone's time.
When you don't disclose it, then there are people who may be earning little or more for the same job.
This type of policy can reduce wage discrepancies.
It's a way of trying to prevent some of that disparity between different demographic groups when they're looking for work.
The legislation would also require companies to disclose if AI is used in the hiring process, a tool this labor relations professor says can be problematic.
Disclosure, while an important first step, to my mind, is not sufficient. That there needs to be regulations around data transparency and the kinds of AI that can be used, how it works, to try to ensure that it's not replicating these discriminatory practices.
For the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, the devil's in the details.
How far does this extend? Is it strictly, people who are posting jobs on something like Indeed or Monster? Does it extend to a newspaper ad, a help wanted sign in the window?
And they want to know how it will be enforced.
Is it sort of going to be on an honor system? Is the government going to be combing job ads in Ontario?
The Labour Minister says there's more to come, but adds they have inspectors that have visited job sites in the past in blitzes to enforce new labour mandates. The legislation will be tabled when MPPs return to Queen's Park the week of November 14th. Reporting live, I'm Alison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Alison. It may not come as a surprise, but according to a new report, the province's minimum wage isn't enough for people to live comfortably in the GTA. In data released today, the Ontario Living Wage Network says people in the GTA need to make at least $25.05 an hour to live comfortably here. That's an increase of about 8% from last year. You can compare the GTA's living wage with other cities on our website, as well as read more about the province's salary legislation at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Did you get caught in the downpour today? We've had heavy rain at times and even a few thunderstorms in parts of the GTA. Not a fun drive there. And here's a live look this hour at the streets. Conditions are improving, and perhaps you've noticed just how dark it is now at this time of day. Our Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. A lot going on this Monday.
Lots going on, Michelle, and it's still raining in some parts of the GTA, particularly around Oshawa and further east of that. But I'm going to step aside here to show you this line of thunderstorms that made its way through areas like Paris, Brantford, even over toward the city of Hamilton. Some pea-sized hail reported with that. It's all part of a bigger area of low pressure that's actually bringing snow to northern parts of our province. But this is the warm front, and we are now in what's known as the warm sector. It's It's going to be very mild through the overnight hours tonight. Winds are coming from the south. They're quite strong right now in places like Windsor and Kingston. Speaking of Windsor, look at the temperature. It is 16 degrees right now. We're at 10 in Toronto, and we might even make it to 13 later tonight before we drop to a not so low of 9 degrees overnight. But then the cold front's going to swing through tomorrow. We'll talk about the temperature drop that's in store coming up. For now, though, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Toronto's police chief says dealing with an increase in hate-motivated crimes in the city and ensuring the community is safe are his top priorities.
It comes as the service officially kicks off Crime Prevention Week. CTV's John Musselman is live at Toronto Police Headquarters with the details. John.
As the Israeli-Hamas war continues, Toronto police say hate crimes are on the rise. Toronto's police chief says the city's Jewish and Palestinian communities are fearful for their own safety.
The most alarming trend is the incredible rise in incidents of hate crimes, anti-Semitism, anti-Islamophobia that we're seeing in the city. Very, very concerning. We have certainly committed an extensive amount of resources, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. We're going to do everything possible to hold those responsible accountable, and we'll continue to investigate each and every incident. And we encourage all members of the public, everybody across all communities, to please report every single incident that they see.
Toronto police have set up 2 command posts so they can be easily reached by communities and take reports. Today, at the launch of Crime Prevention Week, Ontario's Solicitor General says everyone has a right to feel safe in their community.
It doesn't matter where we all came from or how we got here to Ontario. It matters what we do to build the best Ontario we can.
This year's Crime Prevention Week theme is awareness, engagement, and prevention. The chief says the department is also dealing with realignment of police resources. It's connected to protest rallies, marches, and memorials involving members of the Palestinian and Jewish communities. Officers are being deployed to monitor events and ensure public safety.
We're definitely in a place where we are going to have to realign our service delivery to ensure that the model is sustainable.
DEMQ says resource alignment could last weeks or even months, depending on how long the Israeli-Hamas war goes on and the local protests continue. And back to the hate crime situation, the chief says he is appealing to the public for help. If they notice any incidents at all, they're asked to call police right away. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back inside to you.
All right, thank you, John. The cause of a fire that ripped through a housing development in Vaughan remains a mystery tonight.
Dozens of people had hoped to live there. Those dreams are now reduced to ashes and charred remains. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us from Simmons Street near Highway 27 and Rutherford Road with the latest. Beth.
Michelle, the Ontario Fire Marshal says it spent the afternoon dealing with safety issues as some of the townhomes were in danger of collapsing. Meanwhile, some owners have been coming by to check and see if their home survived the fire. It's major destruction that's left dozens of new townhouse owners waiting for word when they'll be able to move in. Vaughan Fire and Rescue Services says of the 111 units under construction, 41 are damaged.
This development ranged from basically wood construction right up to basically a move-in condition. Maybe it'd have been in within a week. So that's the really sad part about it.
Flames erupted early Sunday morning at the Pine Valley Estates development located on Simmons Street near Rutherford Road and Highway 27. It burned, fire officials say, for 8 hours. A fire so intense an aerial truck on scene to fight it was engulfed. It's valued at $1 million.
Due to the rapid change in fire conditions, be it an aerial truck, it has outriggers put down on the ground to stabilize it. They couldn't get the stabilizers up to get that truck moved quick enough. To replace that truck, yeah, that's a big deal. We have to now go through a procurement process to try to get a replacement.
Deputy Chief Grant Moffat says because of the wind, the amount of wood in the fire, and radiant heat, the fire traveled quickly and crews didn't have a chance to get the truck away. Around 60 firefighters in all worked to get it extinguished. An investigation is now underway.
This is a big event. Now the OFM are here and with police and ourselves, and they're doing the investigation. Once that's completed, it'll be turned over to the builder. They'll get their insurance company on board to determine how to get these rebuilt and get people in them.
The Ontario Fire Marshal says it's too early to say whether there's anything suspicious about the fire. The builder says at this time it has no comment. Vaughan Fire says firefighting services in the city will not be affected as the burned fire truck was a spare. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Beth. Coming up, efforts to build affordable housing get a boost as the feds provide funding for dozens of supportive housing units. We'll outline plans for the new homes just ahead.
Ontario and a number of other provinces called for it, but there will be no expansion of the pause on carbon pricing to include all forms of home heating.
In Ottawa, a Conservative motion supported by the majority of Canada's premiers failed to pass in the House of Commons today. CTV's Judy Trinh has the details.
Mr. Speaker, I'm right here while the Prime Minister hides and divides.
On a day when the Prime Minister wasn't in question period, the Conservatives pushed a vote to extend a carbon tax break for all Canadians on all forms of home heating, not just furnace oil. The Liberals questioned if Pierre Poilievre had anything beyond criticism.
He has not spoken the words climate change since he was elected, and he has no plan.
The NDP also agree the Conservatives have no climate policy, but voted with them to send a message to the Liberals about favouring Atlantic Canada.
It was really divisive to say one region gets help because they voted Liberals and other regions don't because they didn't vote Liberal. I mean, we've got to reject that.
The motion didn't pass because the Bloc Québécois didn't vote for it. The carbon tax doesn't apply in Quebec, which has its own policy. But Yves Blanchette did take a swipe at the Liberals for watering down the central plank of their climate policy.
But reducing taxes on mazout fuel or any other oil or gas type of eating is an idea which goes against the best interest of the whole planet.
Despite losing the motion, momentum is growing among the premiers for more carve-outs. Atlantic leaders want to see other provinces also get a tax break on heating, including natural gas and coal. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the newest member of the club, Manitoba, are calling for fairness.
We do think that there should be a similar consideration given to the people of Manitoba to get us through this period of economic pain.
The federal government says there will be no more exemptions on the carbon tax, but that it will work with all the provinces to provide more incentives for low-income Canadians to switch to electric heat pumps. Judy Trinh, CTV News, Ottawa.
In Nigeria today, there was a deadly explosion at Canada's High Commission. 2 Nigerian maintenance workers died. 2 others were injured. A diesel generator exploded, causing a fire that has now been extinguished. An investigation into what caused the tragedy is underway. The mission has temporarily suspended operations until further notice.
Enough is enough. This must stop now. Those words today from 18 UN organizations calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire after 30 days of fighting between Israel and Hamas.
That plea comes as the Israeli army is expected to enter Gaza City soon as efforts continue to get Canadians and others out of the besieged territory. CTV's Heather Butts reports.
Dozens of people passed through the Rafah crossing from Gaza into Egypt today, foreign passport holders and some medical evacuations. It offers hope to those desperate to flee after evacuations were paused and the gates closed over the weekend. The Gaza Border Authority has said only those on pre-approved lists as of November 1st would be allowed through. This as Israeli airstrikes pound parts of Gaza. The IDF has severed northern Gaza from the rest of the besieged territory. The relentless bombing coupled with an intense ground invasion. Troops have encircled Gaza City and are expected to enter within 48 hours.
Now it becomes a building-to-building fight where Israel is going to go after and destroy whatever Hamas fighters are in that area.
The death toll now surpassing 10,000, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The UN Secretary General calling it a nightmare that is a crisis of humanity, destroying innocent lives.
The way forward is clear. A humanitarian ceasefire now. All parties respecting all their obligations under international humanitarian law now. This means the unconditional release of the hostages in Gaza now.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is wrapping up meetings in the Middle East, crisscrossing the region, trying to prevent the war from spilling over. He leaves with little breakthrough on achieving a humanitarian pause.
We've engaged the Israelis on steps that they can take to minimize civilian casualties. We're working, as I said, very aggressively on getting more humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
Global Affairs says the Israeli military has assured Canada that more than 400 of its citizens will be able to cross in the coming days. But approved evacuation lists from Gaza's border authority have not included names of Canadians so far. Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
The agonizing wait continues for those Canadians still stranded in Gaza and for their loved ones here at home. CTV's Rahim Ladani reports.
The desperate wait for Canadians trying to escape Gaza continues to grow longer with complications at the border, leaving family members in Canada uncertain of their safety.
I haven't been able to reach my family in the last 24 hours, so I don't know. The last I heard, my family who is in the south, there was major bombing happening in the area where they were at, and then full communication was cut.
Canadians trapped in the Gaza Strip were first told they would be allowed out over the weekend. That never happened. On Monday, the Rafah border crossing did open, but only to Egyptians and foreigners who are on approved lists. That leaves more than 400 Canadian citizens, permanent residents and family members still trapped in the Palestinian territory.
We've seen different countries allow their citizens to be able to evacuate, but Canada has been trailing behind.
As violence between the Israeli military and Hamas escalates in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis is worsening for civilians.
So my colleague, when I called her today, she broke in tears and she was explaining that now they are drinking the swimming pool water in a house that is overcrowded, that she shares with 120 people.
Global Affairs Canada says the Israeli military has provided assurances that Canadians will be able to cross into Egypt in the coming days. However, pro-Palestinian rallies across the country suggest many feel the Canadian government isn't doing enough to help people get to the only exit point safely.
It almost feels like they are abandoning Canadians, that they are, not creating passageways for them.
Ottawa says Canadians are tentatively scheduled to start leaving Gaza as early as Tuesday. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
In New York, there were fireworks as Donald Trump testified for the first time at his civil fraud trial.
It's very unfair, but in the meantime, the people of the country understand it, they see it, and they don't like it. They don't like it because it's political warfare, as you would call it, or political lawfare.
The former U.S. president was questioned about the Trump Organization's accounting practices. During his testimony, Trump responded by saying he's being treated unfairly. The judge threatened to remove him from the witness stand if he did not answer questions directly. Outside, one of Trump's lawyers had this response.
Your star witness, along with all the DAs and corrupt AGs, need to be paying attention to what happens when you let us take the stand, when you let my client speak the truth, and the judge can tell me to sit down, and he can try and shorten my client's testimony, but it is loud and clear. They've got nothing.
Trump's lawyer says if the judge tries to silence her client, it will be dealt with on appeal. In September, he found Trump, his adult sons, and 10 of his companies liable for fraud. Trump is accused of inflating his net worth in the pursuit of business deals and loans. The state is seeking $250 million in fines.
Pope Francis met with more than 7,000 children from various countries. The pontiff hosted the children from around the world in the Vatican's audience hall today. He took questions from about 14 of the young people, including some from the Middle East and Ukraine. A number of the questions concern the environment and peace.
Prince William's calling for a collective determination in tackling the illegal wildlife trade.
Traffickers in more than 150 countries are developing more sophisticated networks
to smuggle wildlife products across air, land and sea.
William told the summit in Singapore the world's wildlife population has plummeted by almost 70% over the past 50 years. He says 7 countries, including Canada, have committed to deepen their intelligence, sharing to combat international gangs.
And earlier, the prince took part in a dragon boat race. He joined a crew with members from 14 countries, including Canada. William is in Singapore for the presentation of this year's Earthshot Prize tomorrow. Winners are recognized for their contributions to environmentalism.
Back here at home, more supportive housing is coming to the city as part of a plan announced by the federal government to provide affordable rental housing for people at risk of homelessness. CTV's Mike Walker reports.
Roberta Eady is currently living in a tent at a park. For years now, she says she's been on the housing waiting list.
It's crazy. I've gotten no call. I keep checking back.
A wait list that has climbed to 27,000 people. Soon ground will break for 43 new supportive homes in Toronto. At this narrow parking lot near Dundas and Parliament, a 4-story, 12-unit building will be built and operated by nonprofit St. Jude Community Homes.
With the pandemic and after, we've realized the real impact of affordability.
The executive director says it's taken 8 years to get to this point. The site will include 24/7 staffing and mental health support.
Supports with individual escorting to appointments, helping connect with healthcare services, helping to secure employment, and setting up programs in vocational.
It's one of 2 projects benefiting from $16 million in funding from the federal government through the 3rd phase of its Rapid Housing Initiative.
This is about giving at-risk people in this city the safety and stability of a home.
43 people are going to find hope, going to find a place to heal, find a place that they can call home.
The other site at 7 Vanoli Street will be operated by the YMCA for LGBTQ2S+ young adults who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness.
25 to 40% of young people who are homeless identify within these communities.
It will include 31 supportive homes.
The idea is really to create that next step of sustainability, allowing young people who are struggling with income, career, education to really lay some foundation to establish stable income.
Construction will soon begin on these projects, which are expected to be completed sometime between next fall and spring 2025. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Coming up, new power is coming down the pipeline for Ontario's registered nurses. The province is expanding their role, allowing trained nurses to prescribe medications.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, we all know how expensive vehicles have become, and that includes car repairs. Now you can get loans to help pay for repairs, but if you miss your payments, your car can be repossessed. And if it is, it can be expensive to get it back. I'll have my reports just ahead.
Well, after the time change yesterday, you no doubt noticed the sun rising a little earlier this morning, but setting earlier too. Sunset time 5:02 p.m. It's dark out there, and the days will continue to get shorter going forward. Our seasonal average is now 9 degrees. We're going to be warmer than that overnight tonight, but it's a bit of a temperature roller coaster this week. We'll take you through the forecast coming up, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
With inflation, higher interest rates, and other factors, some people are having trouble paying their bills these days, and that also includes car loans and repairs.
If you stop making loan payments, you could have your car repossessed, and if you do, it can be expensive to get it back. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, a Toronto restaurant worker says he was shocked when his car was repossessed after he missed 2 payments. Now he has to pay the money he owes, plus thousands of dollars in extra fees and charges.
As soon as I went to go to my car to go to the gym, my car is gone.
Harley Marquesas of Toronto still has to make bank payments on his 2019 Lexus sedan, but after he got a flat tire, he also had to take out loans to buy tires for the car. He took out an auto repair loan for just over $2,800, and after missing 2 of those payments, his car was repossessed a week ago.
They told me after the next day that the car got repossessed, and if you have to pay this much money.
Marquesas was told he now owes the outstanding principal, plus default charges, recovery expenses, and other fees totaling almost $6,800.
I got a call from No Caller ID that says, don't worry, your car is not stolen. We have your car.
They don't want to particularly repossess a car. That's not what they do.
BDO Debt Solutions says loan companies generally don't want to repossess vehicles and says customers should work with them if they fall behind in their payments to avoid repossession. Once it happens, not only do you need to pay additional fees to get the car back, it can also hurt your credit rating.
It's obviously going to be a negative hit on your credit report, and it's going to reduce your score and obviously make it harder for you to get credit in the future.
Marquesas borrowed the money from Whippy, a company that finances car repairs. Whippy told CTV News, repossession is always our last resort. This customer has 2 payment plans with us, which were both in default. We have decided to waive the storage fees. The new total payment to satisfy both accounts is reduced to $5,000. Marquesas says he's trying to borrow more money so he can pay off the auto loan and get his vehicle, saying he can't afford to be without it.
I want my car back, and if I ever have to pay that much, I'll try my best to get the payment.
And if you're having trouble making your payments, you may want to seek the help of a credit counseling service. You might be able to find other ways to deal with your debt to avoid having your vehicle repossessed. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, to the forecast. We heard thunder earlier today, which was a bit of a surprise to me, and plus it's so dark out there.
It seemed as though the sky was pitch black at 3 o'clock today. We've got less daylight because we fell back over the weekend, and then we had this storm. I mean, the one ray of sunshine was probably the temperatures.
It was a mild day, but it was windy as a result. Well, the wind resulted in the mild temperatures that we had. And you're right, thunderstorms not exactly common for this point in the month of November, but that's what we got in many areas today. Rumbles of thunder, flashes of lightning, and yes, rain heavy at times too. As we make our way through the night tonight, the temperature might actually rise, but then it's going to drop in dramatic fashion into the day on Wednesday. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Look how mild it is right now in Windsor, for example. 16 this hour, but already made it to 17 degrees. It's 11 in Wyerton. We're still at 10 degrees in Toronto, but expecting that temperature is going to climb over the next couple of hours here. And then eventually, likely before we're just waking up tomorrow morning, we could fall to a not so low of 9 degrees. That's what we're forecasting. And as you'll recall, that's our seasonal daytime average high. Tomorrow, about 11 degrees to start off the day, but then the temperature is actually going to fall as the day goes on. So I wouldn't necessarily dress for this in the afternoon. It will likely be in the single digits midway through the afternoon. Snapshot of the highs expected across southwestern Ontario, around the GTA, 11 in Oakville, 10 for you in Whitby, likely single digits the further north you are of Toronto, 8 degrees in Scugog, and 12 in the Brighton area. Let's talk about this active weather. Another look at the satellite and radar shows you, where the thunderstorms rumbled through, and it was mainly to the west of the GTA and then around the city of Toronto. I know Brampton and then over through Durham region, you had thunder and lightning too. Look at the scope of this low. There is snow falling in northern Ontario as well as a widespread portion of Quebec. So a couple of different personalities associated with this. We had the warm front move through. The cold front comes through for tomorrow. Here's a look at the forecast radar. There's overnight. Just want to show you some wet weather to the east of Georgian Bay. Here's the cold front as it starts to slice through. We could see a few showers tomorrow morning. It's going to be a mostly cloudy day. We start to see some cloud cover breaking up. And now this is a little bit early, but I just want to draw your attention to Wednesday and the potential for maybe some mixed precipitation. And that's because overnight Tuesday into Wednesday will slip below freezing, a high of only 3 degrees into the day on Wednesday. We rebound temperature-wise for Thursday. Cooler again by the weekend, but hey, at least we have some sunshine to look forward to. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciating the power of the Jagged Little Pill, how one of the best-selling albums of all time and now Broadway musical has impacted people's lives. That's coming up.
The province has outlined a plan to improve access to certain medications.
Today, the government announced registered nurses will soon be able to prescribe some drugs. Starting in the new year, nurses will be able to register for training programs. Those certified will be able to prescribe medications. Health Minister Sylvia Jones says the plan will help reduce wait times at community clinics and hospitals.
With these changes, registered nurses that complete additional training will be able to independently provide people with birth control, drugs for smoking cessation, travel medications to treat and prevent diseases like malaria, topical wound care, and vaccinations such as the flu shot and COVID-19 vaccine.
Training programs are being developed by the College of Nurses of Ontario.
Meanwhile, Canada's premiers and territorial leaders discussed interprovincial recruitment of nurses and other healthcare workers today.
I think there was a significant unity amongst ourselves to prevent an aggressive, active recruitment campaign in other people's backyards.
A two-day health summit wrapped up in Halifax this afternoon. Nova Scotia's premier says he is not a fan of going to other provinces to recruit their healthcare professionals. Tim Houston insists there are a lot of qualified people elsewhere in the world, so he pitched the idea to his colleagues today that the practice be halted.
Jagged Little Pill was the album which changed the landscape for many female musicians.
The songs which made Alanis Morissette a household name worldwide are the soundtrack for a Tony Award-winning Broadway show. CTV's Andrea Case joins us now. And Andrea, you spoke to some familiar faces on opening night here in Toronto.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. Opening night was held recently at the Princess of Wales Theatre, and while Alanis was not in attendance, there were many to reminisce about the impact she had on them and the industry.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
In 1995, 19-year-old Ottawa native Alanis Morissette kicked the door in on the music world and released her album, Jagged Little Pill.
It changed music literally overnight once it started to explode. More women got more airplay, more women got on video play, and Alanis Morissette became the absolute superstar, being so authentic and so real.
Musician and original Bare Naked Lady, Stephen Page.
I remember when this record came out, we were struggling in the clubs in the United States. We'd done really well in Canada, and this record came out, and we thought, the same Alanis we know from home has made this angry, angsty record, and then it became the biggest thing in the world. And, it was just incredible to watch that success happen.
Page was accompanied by his son, Ben, who wasn't born when the album came out.
I'm more familiar with the cast album, actually, than I am the original record. So it's sort of funny coming to this musical because we've got both two opposite ends of coming to this show.
The cast album comes from the Broadway show Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill, the musical, which is now on stage at the Princess of Wales Theatre. Former Much Music VJ Erica Elm knows the 5-time Grammy-winning album, which went on to sell 33 million copies well, but not the musical.
I don't know what the show is about, but I know that the album is all about a woman taking back her power, and I hope that the show can live up to this incredible, powerful album. But if Alanis is involved, I'm pretty sure it will.
Its many stories weave together addiction, trauma, empowerment, and the path to healing. The play has meant a lot to its legions of fans, winning 2 Tony Awards and now touring the world. Jagged Little Pill, the musical, runs until November 26th. Okay, look for Ben Page on the stage soon because he is also an actor. Now, the play was written by Diablo Cody, the Oscar winner behind the 2007 indie film Juno. The show will not be extended. It ends on the 26th because it's a touring production. Andrea Case, that's me for CTV News. Michelle?
Thanks, Andrea. Live from New York, Tate McRae, the Canadian singer-songwriter, will be the musical guest on Saturday Night Live next month. The Calgary performer takes the stage at SNL just later this month, actually, November 18th. The show will be hosted by actor Jason Momoa. McRae first gained recognition as a finalist on the show So You Think You Can Dance. Her song Greedy has more than 260 million streams on Spotify.
Anyone looking to learn how to be the host with the most can now learn from one of the best. Booking.com has listed Martha Stewart's farm guest house for a one-night stay. The space in Bedford, New York is available for $11.23. The price honors the date of U.S. Thanksgiving this year. Guests will be given a guided tour of the property, instruction on wreath making and table setting, and a catered brunch with Stewart herself.
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
After the break, he's back on his feet and looking to give back. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin launches a scholarship in honor of the medical team who helped save his life.
On the next CB24 Breakfast.
Haley Wickenheiser is facing off against lung cancer and looking to make the game of hockey safer for everyone.
Yeah, that conversation on the next CB24 Breakfast up first at 5:30 a.m.
One more minute, I would have sat in that car if those people didn't come out and help me. I wouldn't have gotten out.
Updating our top stories, a woman says she is lucky to be alive after her vehicle caught fire while driving on the 401. It happened Saturday night near Hamilton. Jamie Lee Mitchell says an off-duty police officer and his wife happened to be driving by and sprang into action and pulled her out of the blaze.
Toronto paramedics started life-saving measures, but he was subsequently pronounced deceased right at the scene.
Toronto police are investigating a deadly daylight shooting in Scarborough. It happened inside an apartment building near Kingston and Galloway this afternoon, just after 12:30. A second man was detained but was since sent to hospital in serious condition.
When workers' salaries are kept secret, there's only one beneficiary, and that's businesses.
Salary is top of mind for anyone looking for work, and now it could soon be mandatory for Ontario employers to disclose wages on job postings. The province's labor minister says the requirement would start with employment ads that pay less than $100,000 a year. On the markets, the Canadian dollar is trading slightly lower to $73.01 U.S. American benchmark oil added 31 cents to close at $80.80 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index dropped 80 points to end the day at 19,743.
Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is honoring the medical team that helped save his life earlier this year by launching a scholarship program for youth in Cincinnati. Hamlin's charitable foundation will award $1,000 scholarships to 10 individuals from Cincinnati's underserved communities for each of the next 3 years. The scholarships will be named after the doctors and nurses who treated Hamlin after he went into cardiac arrest during a game in January. The Bills lost yesterday to Cincinnati.
The Maple Leafs will look to avoid losing 5 straight as they welcome the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight.
Flips it across, Dahlin scores! Hits somebody in front!
The Leafs are coming off a 6-4 loss to the Buffalo Sabres Saturday. Puck drop for tonight's game against the Lightning is set for 7 at Scotiabank Arena.
What a difference, the second half, now into OT. Career best, OG, 7 made threes.
On the basketball court, it was a dramatic finish between the Raptors and San Antonio Spurs last night. Toronto managed to overcome a 22-point deficit to send the game to overtime. They managed to come out on top in OT, beating the Spurs 123-116. The Raps will continue their Texas road trip with a game against the Dallas Mavericks on Wednesday.
3 Blue Jays have won Gold Glove awards as the top defensive players at their positions. Matt Chapman won his 4th Gold Glove for his play at third base, while outfielder Kevin Kiermaier also won the award for the 4th time. Meanwhile, starting pitcher Jose Barrios was a first-time Gold Glove winner. Now all 3 have a chance to win the Platinum Glove Award, which recognizes the best fielder in each league. The winner is set to be announced on Friday.
Also, the Jays exercised their 2-year, $21 million option for Chad Green today. The 32-year-old reliever was limited to 12 innings due to injuries in his first season with Toronto in 2023. Green played his first 7 seasons with the Yankees before signing with the Jays in January.
And Toronto has extended a qualifying offer to Matt Chapman. The third baseman will have until next Tuesday to accept the offer. If he declines and signs with another team, the Jays get a 2024 draft pick from his new club. Toronto also acquired pitcher Brendan Little from the Cubs today for cash considerations.
Another Big Bang theory. Scientists believe they've found proof of an ancient planet that smashed into Earth billions of years ago and formed the moon. The astronomical calculation coming up.
Tonight, as Remembrance Day approaches, legions across the country grapple with declining membership and mounting bills.
Sometimes you just throw up your hands in disgust and say, oh, what do we do?
The community cornerstones facing uncertain futures. Later on CTV National News.
It is a question scientists have long pondered.
What happened to the ancient planet that likely smashed into Earth billions of years ago? The impact spewed debris that formed the moon we see today. What about that planet? No fragments have been found in the solar system, leaving many to believe some ended up in the Earth's interior. Now, a new theory suggests portions of the planet may be just 2,900 kilometers below the surface, and that could explain the origin of two giant masses embedded within the Earth that were detected in the 1980s, each bigger than the moon. So there you go. That's the answer.
Oh.
Well, as we take a look at the rest of the evening, we know that we have had wet weather. That is now moving out of the GTA. There's one more look at the satellite and radar imagery. We will remain unsettled with the chance of showers overnight and into tomorrow morning. It's going to be a mild start to the day. Our forecast high is about 11 degrees, but that temperature is going to drop as we go. We'll be below freezing for Tuesday night into Wednesday. Wednesday itself is a cool day. Unsettled on Thursday. We start to see some sun again Friday and through the weekend. It is looking like it could be a little chilly for Remembrance Day this year. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.